Hello, this is Chris Gill. I'm doing a guest blogging for Harriet's blog. So I've been asked to talk about my art practice. Okay, sorry. I was very excited to do this. Weirdly, because I have a visual impairment and multiple sclerosis. I don't know, those things combine to make videos and video editing quite hard. But anyway, I did a very exciting video. I was in a 100-mile-per-hour blizzard and with lots of artworks and all sorts of things flying around. But unfortunately, technology intervened, so at this point you have to listen with your ears as opposed to seeing with your ears as opposed to seeing with your eyes. So my art practice is quite erratic at the moment. I have gone through a long period of progressive MS, so that has made my practice a bit different. I've done a lot of work since that process began in earnest, including installations and a lot of painting and various other things, sound for various galleries and museums, and just for my own personal amusement and what have you. So I have had a lot of work out there in the world. Mostly it gets shown in places like China or other places, Europe, never in the UK for some reason. I seem to have a Christmas tree against my name in the UK. Oh well, that's life. Anyway, I have I've been living in Cornholme, which is in Todmorden, where I have had a studio for the last 4 years or 5 years. All that work I've put into storage right now, so I don't really have anything available. So I can't play piano either. But what I could say about my work is that it's been mostly about the process of the weather in the heart, whereby when you know that you're going to go through rather dramatic process of change, both physically and emotionally, culturally, and on many other different levels. If you prepare yourself in a way, or give yourself a kind of a guiding point to help you through that process, then you'll probably find it easier than if you just let it happen to you. So what I did was I created a few hundred works along various themes, but essentially around technology. I'm very interested in technology, robots, AI, virtual currency, new things going on in the world, new developments in biology, genetics, stem cell research, chemotherapy, Chinese medicine, I don't know, the landscape, environments that modern humans are creating for themselves. All these sort of myriad of issues I tend to throw into my work. So it's can be quite hectic work, or very busy, I think is a art world phrase for it. Can be very busy, cannot be very busy, just depending. And is mostly about ideas, things like robots and artificial intelligence and politics and social engineering. all the kind of things that are going on and the currents of thinking that we're experiencing now in different cultures and in different modes, under capitalist system or under semi-capitalist or autocratic capitalist or oligarchic systems. I mean, I have lived all over the world. I lived in Africa for 10 years, Asia for 20 years. I worked in Russia. I worked, all over the place. And apart from the UK, obviously. Right now I'm in Canada for a bit. I'll be moving to Bristol, I think, by some point this year. So, my practice tends to move around, and then I'll build up a body of work, and then I'll tend to shrink it down into, throw away a lot of it, and then keep the sort of essence of it, and boil it down, and put it in a warehouse somewhere, store it somewhere. It's all a rather, it's a bit of a weird process, really, being an artist, because you've got to survive, and then you have to you sort of create all these things or ideas, or I think that's why a lot of people are moving into things like digital or whatever, because then it's much easier to store. They just can keep it on the hard drive. I'm still one of those curmudgeons who still actually tries to create physical objects, because I think they have a stronger presence in the room, so to speak, rather than videos or I don't know, some electronic things can be cool. It just depends, really, but I'm still a bit old school on that. Even you could mix it up, but I think the language of painting and oil paint and these kind of viscous materials still have a lot to say. I don't think it's a dead language quite yet, though the fluency that's needed by the audience, I think, is rather difficult these days, the understanding. And it's all getting confused by the media, the market. There's very little critical discourse, and things like museum, the position of the curator, how this position has arisen with curators are now somehow like film directors and things, whereas and art fairs and things like that didn't really exist 20 years ago. So in my opinion, maybe we should begin to question these modes of propaganda or whatever it is. I think a lot of the innocence has gone out of things, and there tends to be a lot of repetition for market. For instance, the insistence on specific styles and, I don't know, art schools tend to be just breeding people for, not always, but there seem to be a lot of the art schools are just making robots for I don't know, so they can do shop windows for whatever, Prada or someone. That's a good moan, isn't it? Anyway, and what else I'd like to say about my own art is I tend to be quite what you might call a neo-expressionist. It's because of my influences were pretty big in the 80s, where neo-expressionism was a big thing. So I tend to have stuck with that. It was something I liked. But I don't know I don't have a label now. I don't know what I would be if I was to be labeled by blind, disabled, painter, neo-expressionist, Chinese avant-garde with an African twist. Sounds like the worst flavor of crisps you'd ever buy. So I don't. We do live in quite a complex world with globalization, so maybe I'm just a symptom of that. Anyway, those are my very simple thoughts. I thought I'd keep it short. And I'm going to miss Cornholm. That's been a wonderful production base for me. I really like the atmosphere there, and there's a good community of artists in the town who are all pretty much, I don't know, a bit like an anarchist collective or something. There's such a thing. But, you know, as you can imagine, there tend to be refugees from all over the place in Todmorden. So I'll miss it. But I'll probably be back at some point, as I'm from there anyway. And I would like to say, hope everything goes well in the future for Harriet's blog. And if you wish to actually physically see any of my artworks, you could visit Shanghai. There seems to be some there. Or there's some in Kuala Lumpur, some in Japan, Taiwan, where else? Germany, Belgium, various places like that. Otherwise, I don't know. Probably YouTube, I suppose, but it's not really the same. But I do have a YouTube channel under my Chinese name, which is Li Yunfei, Liyunfei, and I put all sorts of random nonsense on there. And what else is there I could tell you about? Please subscribe to the Talking Newspaper for Todmorden, where we do quite a lot of very interesting magazine articles about various characters in the town. And yes, don't smoke, vape, and that's about it. All right.